Hello and welcome back to this series on new games for the BBC Micro. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at Stephen Scott's 2022 release Polymer Picker. The splash screen is a true work of art. I mean, can you believe that there are just 4 distinct colours being used here? Black, white, blue and cyan, nothing more. Quite incredible. It really sets the scene for this game, which has you starring as a scuba diver seeking to rid the oceans of pesky plastics. It's the standard keys here for navigation, Z, X for left and right, asterisk and question mark for up and down, and the return key for a speed boost, although more on that in a moment. You can redefine the keys if you like, but if you're playing on a real Beeb, I'd say stick with the ones that Stephen intended. A quick flash of the high score table shows us that Noonies is the score to beat, and with that we're into the game proper, gently serenaded by a little jingle. This first level is as easy as the game gets. You need to grab the plastics before the fish reach them, and for each fish saved at the end of the level you get bonus points. Your air tank will steadily deplete as you move around, and if you bump into a jellyfish you'll lose air a bit more quickly. You also lose air faster if you use the speed boost, but to be honest, on this first level you don't really need it. Just weave in and out of the jellies and pick those polymers. A handy counter bottom left indicates how many plastics there are left to go. If your air depletes more than halfway, a fresh canister appears under the boat at the top and you can grab that to replenish. The more air in your tank at the end of the level, the more points you score. Aside from those nasty jellies, there's not too much peril here. You can fairly easily get to the plastics before the fish do, and at the end of the level you'll see a nice tally of hearts showing you how many fish you saved. The more fish you save, of course, the better your score. The next level shakes things up a bit. You still need to grab the plastics, but you don't have fish to save. Instead, you're beset by a rampaging shark who chases you around the water. This is where your speed boost comes into its own. At normal speed, the shark will easily catch you, but with the speed boost you can outswim it. Of course, this comes at the expense of your remaining air, so you need to keep an eye on that to avoid running out completely. With judicious use of speed boost, however, this level is also not too hard to complete. The game then alternates between saving fish without a shark adversary and, well, saving yourself from said shark. That is until you reach the later levels, when not only do you need to save the fish, but the shark also joins in. I mean, you don't need to save the shark, but it's there, and it makes it rather harder to balance getting to the plastics versus avoiding the shark. Not only that, but the fish that you're here to save start biting the hand that saves them, so you really have to keep out of their way too. Any collision with shark, jellyfish, or indeed by this point ordinary fish will result in significant air loss. As the little prompts which accompany the start of each level make clear, things just go from bad to worse. Initially it's just a case of uh-oh, but before long we're into the oh no stakes. By this point it's quite easy to lose all your air in a shark attack, at which point it's curtains. No lives here. Once your air is spent, so is your game. All that remains is to see whether you've scored enough to beat Noonie to that glowing number 1 rank atop the high score table. Once you've played the game for a while, things can get a bit eerie. The shark doesn't always stick to the rules and can be seen jumping into the ocean from above, or even circling the depths of the game screen. It's slightly wacky, but I like it. A possible homage to Happy Days? I mean, quite literally jumping the shark? Well, I leave that for you to decide. And woe betide you if it does start just above the boat at the beginning of a level, as you're straight into a shark attack before you've had a chance to draw your first breath. I really like this game for several reasons. Firstly, it's a novel idea, but I don't think I've come across a game with this particular theme before, and as I said to Stephen when he was developing it, it has a lovely educational vein running through it. You can easily imagine this game being used by a teacher back in the day to teach a lesson on plastics pollution. Indeed, there were quite a few games like this back in the 80s. I remember one about saving the osprey, and I could see Polymer Picker sitting in the very same company. That nod to the educational heritage of the Beeb is a nice touch, I think. Secondly, the graphics here are really good, in particular the shark, who looks fantastic. I especially like how it moves from profile to face on as it moves around the waters. There are some great animations on the ocean floor too, including crabs and shrimp. I think they're shrimp. They might be lobsters, but I mean, let's face it, a lobster is basically just a large shrimp. They're not interactive elements, but they've been added to give the game that little extra scenic depth, which I like a lot. The sound effects, while sparing, are used well. That white noise swoosh of the air tanks is effective, and the jingles between levels are an especially nice touch. Another feature that I think is fun is how the times of day change on each level. Sometimes it's the middle of the day, other times it's sunset, and on occasion even nighttime. It reminds me of that old 90s screensaver classic, Johnny Castaway. It's a nice way to make each level feel subtly different without having to completely redefine everything about it. The same goes for the types of plastic that we have to collect, which vary from one level to the next, along with the colours of the fish. And yes, I'm going to say it, another thing I personally appreciate is that the game isn't too fiendishly hard. You might argue that for that truly authentic 8-bit gaming experience it should be punishingly difficult, as many such games were, but Stephen has wisely chosen to make this easy enough to get properly immersed in. For someone like me who isn't especially good at games, particularly fast-paced ones that rely on lightning reflexes and pixel-perfect manoeuvres, I like the more genteel approach on offer here. It's the kind of game that I can easily imagine a family playing together, with the non-gamer parents and siblings actually having a chance of competing. Overall, I think Stephen has done a fine job here, and I really do urge you to head over to the complete BBC Micro Games archive to download and play it. As with all of these homebrews, it's completely free, and there really is no excuse. Oh, and by the way, 66,700 is now the score to beat. Take that, Noonie. I hope you've enjoyed this review of Polymer Picker, and that you'll join me for the next video in this series on new games for the Beeb. But until then, goodbye!